My name is Mario Apostolov. I'm the regional advisor on trade facilitation and electronic business at the Economic Cooperation and Trade Division of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And I will talk to you now on the idea that digitalization of trade and multimodal transport information flows needs to be aligned to global United Nations standards. Otherwise, fragmented efforts for digitalization will create a new problem. I will talk to you about a package of standards and artifacts, data sets and structures, XSD and XML schemas, which are a foundation for this interoperability in the whole supply chain between modes of transport and sectors. The standards that we use in our UN Development Account project, in which we prepared the package of standards and artifacts, were developed as part of the overall work of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and its Center for Trade Facilitation and Electronic Business called UNCFACT. The UNCFACT Center is an intergovernmental body based on public and private partnership, which is mandated by the United Nations Economic and Social Council, UNECOSOC, to develop global semantic standards, reference data models, directories, and other tools for trade facilitation and electronic business. UNCFACT is a subsidiary body of UNECE, which is one of the 5 regional commissions of the United Nations under the Economic and Social Commission Council of the United Nations. On this slide, I'm showing you the logic of the project under which we developed the package of standards. This was a multi-agency United Nations Development Account project, which combined all the regional commissions, the 5 regional commissions plus UNCTAD, to develop solutions for the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis. The project lasted in 2020, 2022. And we had a segment on interoperability of multimodal data exchange using the UNCFACT standards and reference data models. The logic was that we upgraded existing and developed new data exchange standards for key documents accompanying goods in various modes of transport. And all this was based on the UNCFACT multimodal transport reference data model. On this basis, we developed implementation projects, for example, in digital multimodal corridors or for various documents. One example that I would like to stress here is the development of a digital version of the FIATA multimodal bill of lading, or the air cargo transport documents, or consignment notes for railways. All these documents were tested in pilot projects. Key partners cooperated with us. On the one hand, the UNECE, including our transport division, and also organizations of the UN dealing with other modes of transport like ICAO for air transport, IMO for maritime transport. Also, we cooperated with the European Commission, FIATA, OSGD, the organization on railway cooperation, CIT, another railway organization, IATA, IRU, Guam, Trasica, BSEC, and other organizations. Our work was done in close relationship with other organizations. For example, the work on the electronic freight transport information regulations of the European Union, which also takes the UNCFACT multimodal transport reference data model as a reference for interoperability. On this slide, I'm showing the website of the project which I just mentioned, where you can find in the location that I'm just indicating, the second window on the left column, you can find information on our project on electronic trade and transport documents and data. There you can find the standards and the reports of the pilot projects during the 2 years of the project. These can orient you how the standards can be used. And the standards encompassed all 5 main modes of transport: maritime, inland water, road, rail, and air cargo documents. At the bottom of this slide, you can see the websites of both the UN Trade and Transport Connectivity Project, under which we developed the package, and also the UNCFACT website, which also publishes the standards after they have been approved by the Bureau of UNCFACT. This slide shows the logic of what we are doing. The idea of linking the information in the various modes of transport through alignment to a common base, to a common foundation, or common denominator, or lingua franca, if you want, which is the UNCFACT semantic standards and multimodal transport reference data model. These are the tools that provide the possibility for interoperability so that data can flow seamlessly between the different modes of transport. The idea is that first we start with the main documents accompanying goods in the 5 modes of transport, and also we combine them with other documents related to the supply chain. I mean here the key trade documents, for example, invoices, certificates of origin, various agricultural certificates, including the phytosanitary, veterinary, and other certificates. And if the information already moving between different business participants in the supply chain, if that information is standardized, this creates a possibility for much better, more efficient, and free of errors submission of data to the regulatory authorities, including to customs or regulatory single window and other systems processing data on export, import, and transit. On this slide, I'm showing the different stages of developing standards for for digitalization of data and document exchange in the supply chain. Before the project and before the COVID pandemic, there was a list of documents for which standards, data sets, which are actually subsets of the multimodal reference data models of UNCFACT. Then also schemas, XSD schemas, and all the other artifacts for the preparation of electronic document and data exchange were prepared. So the first group here are standards which were ready before the pandemic. The second group in the lower left corner were documents that were prepared on the initial stage, and these were documents related to logistics. Some of them are basic documents used for the further development of the package. For example, the waybill there that you can see. Under this item, experts developed business requirement specifications for the waybill, which was afterwards used as the basis. Actually, the standard is this business requirement specification, which was used for all the consignment notes and bills of lading that were prepared on the next stage. Actually, on the next stage, the idea was to keep one and the same business requirement specification, only one standard, and then developed the different so-called artifacts that supported the standard. So on the third stage were developed standards for certain documents for inland water transport. Actually, there was the first suggestion to develop either a bill of lading or consignment note for inland water transportation, maritime waybill, uh, railway consignment notes were developed on that stage, like the CIM SMGS or SMGS consignment notes. And also further development was given to the eCert standard, which involves several agricultural certificates, like the sanitary and field sanitary certificates. On the fourth stage, which lasted till the end of 2021, we developed standards for 3 documents for air cargo, which was the last stage in the development of the package. And these 3 documents, as requested by our partners from ICAO, were the airway bill, dangerous goods declarations, and consignment security declaration. On this point, I would like to stress that the standards were actually developed in collaboration with other organizations that are working on in their specific sectors. And if standards for digitalization already exist, like for example the IATA airway bill, we did not suggest anything that would substitute for that standard. We just worked on the alignment, on the data mapping to the reference data models of UNC-FACT, so that with minimum efforts, the possibility for alignment and interoperability between sectors will be created. So the previous standards continued to exist, and we helped develop new. And already at that point in 2021 and 2022, the first big success story came with the development of the FIATA multimodal bill of lading, which was aligned to the reference data models of UNC-FACT. It was developed by a very efficient team of UNC-FACT and FIATA experts. And in the first half of 2022, the FIATA multimodal bill of lading in digital format became operational. On this slide, I'm just showing how the standards are presented in on the UNC-FACT and UNTTC websites. This is the structure which the experts have developed in alignment to the UNC-FACT reference data models. So if one goes to the website and starts clicking in these boxes, one can go deeper and deeper until all the elements in a specific transport document are presented. So the idea is that if those standards are aligned, so if the data in the data structures is aligned to the reference data models of CFACT, you can then exchange data from one document to another. Here, like this is the same document which I'm showcasing here. It's the CIM SMGS consignment railway consignment note. If the data and the experts have developed data sets and structures and XSD and XML schemas. If the data is aligned, and it is aligned in our standards, then a possibility to exchange data with other modes of transport, other documents, other sectors is really possible. This is the basis for interoperability. So this creates a possibility for seamless exchange of data between modes and then other sectors. So you can have a flow of data along supply chains. I already mentioned that the last mode of transport on which our experts worked was the air cargo. There, a list of the operational data for the airway bill was created, and the same was done for the dangerous goods declaration and the consignment security declaration. So, on the basis of these standards, a foundation is created for the exchange of data between those documents and other documents for other modes of transport and other sectors. The same was done for the railway industry. Here, you know that there are several generations of standards which are still massively in use. For example, the previous generation of UNCFACT standards, which is UNEDIFACT, is very much in use. And in Eastern Europe and Asia, the EDIFACT messages like IFTMIN and a couple of other messages are used for exchange of information. There are major projects there. So we worked under our project not only on the creation of data sets and data structures for the new generation of electronic document and data exchange, which is based on internet, which is different from the message structures of UNEDIFACT. So we worked on the creation of the standards to be used for the internet age, for the various railway consignment nodes like the CIM, SMGS, and the SMGS consignment node. And through this mapping, a possibility for a converter between the EDIFACT messages and the new structures of the railway consignment nodes was created. With this practically possible to use the ready standards to create converters between the different messages and the different technologies. This is a major move ahead, and I hope that private business will see the advantage and start using this concept of the converters using the UN standards. During the work on this project, we realized that there are other areas in which the alignment, which should be preceded by data mapping between the different modes of transport, was necessary. So our experts looked at the data in the dangerous goods declarations in the 5 modes of transport. The first conclusion is that there are significant differences between the data sets, the data definitions, etc., among the 5 modal dangerous goods declarations. So, as in the area of the key documents accompanying goods like consignment notes and bills of lading, the experts created a matrix of the data in the different documents. They created that for the key documents accompanying goods and also for the dangerous goods declarations. So this tool can be used further for the creation of actual tools for exchange of data between the dangerous goods declarations. So in simple words, the experts created a possibility so that the data in the different modes of transport, in the dangerous goods declarations in the different modes of transport, can flow seamlessly. Also, another area on which the experts started working is the link from the transport documents to the regulatory IT systems and data sets. On the left hand, you can see a snapshot of what I was just mentioning, the matrix of data in the different model consignment nodes. So then, if the family of reference data models of UNCFACT is used properly, the alignment of data in the transport documents allows for the data in those data sets to be transmitted to the regulatory systems, to the regulatory agencies' IT systems, so that the data can be processed and used there. The idea is again to use the reference data models of UNCFACT as the semantic basis, the common denominator for the exchange of data. And first steps were done under our current projects on the data mapping between the different modes of transport. We observed during the work that for certain documents to become real implementation of the standards, a lot of work has to be done with a focus on the legal aspects of the implementation of electronic documents, electronic data sets, instead of the paper documents for which the legal basis, including conventions, was created. There is a list which I have shown here of issues that have to be reviewed while preparing the legal basis for this transformation from paper documents to electronic documents, electronic data sets, which would be exchanged in a data pipeline. So this legal work is reviewed by the concrete implementers. We're talking about the pilot projects which were reviewed, but also there are major organizations like the UN Commission on International Trade Law, UNCITRAL. They are looking into this issue. In 2017, they adopted a model law on electronic transferable records, which countries may look at when developing the legal basis for the exchange of data and documents in electronic format. We are also looking with the experts at such issues as the implementation of verifiable credentials to provide a basis for the legality of data and document exchange. And we are looking forward to cooperate with various agencies on studying the basis, giving recommendations for the transition from paper documents to electronic documents, data sets, and data pipelines. One of the areas in which we have looked into piloting of the concept was a long corridor between Asia and Europe. I already mentioned the idea of our work on the railway exchange, the converter between solutions based on EDIFACT in Asia, between Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, and Europe, where the solutions are already developing, as I mentioned, for the FT regulation of the European Union, using the new generation of semantic standards and reference data models. So this is one thing which we were looking at, the idea of implementing solutions based on the package of standards that we have, that I just presented. And the idea is to have a compatibility, not only, let's say, along between the different standards for railway data exchange, on which we cooperate with various partners, including OSGD, CIT, but also with national railway companies, and we are hoping to develop some real data exchange, for example, between Central Asia and Azerbaijan and other countries. And the idea is also to look at the legal framework. Probably agreements would be necessary between countries that are developing solutions using those standards on like agreements, negotiations and agreements on the use of the solutions that are proposed. The whole idea is that our standards are technologically neutral. They are suitable for electronic data interchange, XML, JSON APIs, and the latter technology is necessary if one wants to build blockchains. This is the buzzword now for in terms of the technology to implement the digitalization of data and document exchange. So we are making a call to all stakeholders to collaborate and use the universal standards, not to develop separate silo solutions in separate countries, separate sectors, modes of transport. And the overall move from documents to data exchange it is inevitable, and it needs that people prepare for it. So the whole system needs to prepare. So our strong um, our strong invitation is to look seriously at the global UN standards for this exchange, because otherwise, as I mentioned, the fragmentation will create new problems. One particular project on which we are working now is the use of those standards which are for business documents. The transport documents are business documents. So the idea is to use those standards for exchange between business partners. And one option which came in the practical situation between Ukraine and its neighbors, Romania, Poland. The idea is to use these standards, use the experience that the port community system in Odessa has in developing electronic versions of data and documents, and its relationships to the government authorities that are accepting those electronic documents and data sets. The idea was to link two port community systems, the one in Odessa and the one in Constanza, for example, or Polski in Poland, to exchange the data. They can organize the exchange of data among themselves. For us, it's important that they use the international, the UN standards. And further, the two agencies, the two port community systems can arrange the submission of the data to the government authorities. This is a very real perspective of using those standards by concrete systems like the port community systems. The same approach can be taken to single window uh, mechanisms uh, in the various countries. Well, we are looking for further partnerships to develop concrete projects with FIATA. FIATA is looking at 3 more documents to be developed using the UNCFACT standards. ICAO is steadily looking for possibilities to have pilot projects in the air cargo industry. We work very well with OSGD on the SMGS railway consignment node, and hopefully we can go for implementation. Then, well, there are certain documents which were tested in the pilot projects, like the EMO file documents were tested in the ports of Ukraine. The pilot projects quite often take the form of digital twins, meaning on the one hand, the exchange of paper documents continues, but it is accompanied by electronic document exchange. UN CFACT standards were recently published in a specified brochure by the WTO and ICC. which was a great benchmark in the development and implementation of the standards. And this is my last slide, which shows the whole logic of development and implementation of the standards. At the bottom is the global development of the standards. UNC fact, on the basis of its data reference models and standards for multimodal transport, it is developing the basis. That basis is taken up by sectorial organizations like UNECE, ICAO, the International Maritime Organization, FIATA, OSGD, and others, or by regional entities like the European Union, which is discussing in its digital forum for transport information, DTLF. They are discussing the use of the UNC fact reference data model as the key reference for the development of the data model for electronic freight transport information exchange. And also there are other organizations which are quite interested in cooperating on this issue, like Trasica, Guam. Well, Trasica is the corridor between Asia and the Caucasus and Central Asia, supported by the European Union. Guam is an organization of 4 countries that are looking into data exchange for trade and transport. So they are interested in using these standards. And then further, on this basis, traders, logistics companies, and national regulatory agencies can use the standards. Thank you very much for the attention. This is just the beginning. Other experts will show the concrete implementation, the concrete use of these standards in the practice of creation and operation of electronic data and document exchange. If there are further questions, you have my contacts here. Please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.